What's going on, guys? Kyger here. Fairy wills and generations are the most fun and most complicated things in the game. I'm going to give you a quick start guide to get you rolling. Let's get into it. Alright, so there's a little bit of confusion. Both of these things are called wills. The one right here is called a will core, so let's just call them cores. And then the ones down here are will generations. Just call them generations. Make it a little bit easier when you're talking about wills. Now, if we take a look, this one right here, as you can see, is level 3. Nightmare level 3. All 4 of my deployed units, so the top 4 ones over here, whatever they have are added. So if I had another Nightmare one, level 3 plus whatever that level is will be my current Nightmare level. For example, over here we have Fierce Attack level 4. If I have another Fierce Attack level 4, I would have Fierce Attack level 8. Now when you get a will core or a core, they will start at level 1 or have no level. You obviously only want ones that start with a level 1, and then for every plus 5, as you can see this is at plus 35, every plus 5 has a chance to roll a level up. So with purples they can go up to 25, so they can have at most a plus 6, but you're almost never going to have a plus 6 purple. Just how rare it is. As far as the orange, you have 2 additional rolls, so getting that, generally we like to go for a 5, and if you ever get a 6 then awesome, right? And theoretically with orange there is a mythical 7, but I've never seen that anywhere. The generations down here work the same way as far as levels are concerned. Now it can be a little confusing because this doesn't say a level anywhere, but if you have 4 sets of, let's say, break free, these numbers are going to get increased for that crit rate, crit damage when using them together. You can also mix and match. Generally, what I like to look at is for your cores, go for plus 5s, and if you have across the board plus 5s, and then you have 2 of one and 2 of another, they're both at plus 10. Eventually, whenever RNG goes in your favor, they'll be plus 6s, and then you'll have plus 12, which is the cap level with adding together. So plus 10s work your way up to plus 12s, but there are times where, let's say, a 10, a 5, and a 5 will be really good. That's why I'm saying this is a pretty in-depth system here, and if you're trying to min-max different game modes, different builds, you can be in this will section all day before you do each individual game mode. Now I get a lot of questions, what will do I want to put on this fairy? And that's the wrong way to look at it. You want to look at your whole build, what both of your weapons bring to the table, as well as all 4 fairies bring to the table, and then make your decisions based off that. It's like a loadout. If you're going into like a Call of Duty game or whatever, you want to make sure that you're complementing what you have going on. If you have a bunch of stuns, a nightmare, and let's say soul hunt work really well together, as an example. Now let's talk about the different wills and generations, and then walk you through what they do and where I think they could be useful. I'm not going to bring the numbers up because it's tough to put it between the 2 things, but if you check my Discord, I have all the wills effects on there for you to check. But first we're going to talk about Fierce Attack. After a character's normal attack or skill hits an enemy for 3 times, deals additional damage equal to % of current HP and no more than a percentage of your attack towards the target hit, and grants character damage plus 8%, plus percent for the following 5 seconds. So as I just said, this is current HP, so it's the strongest when they're at full HP, and this kind of combos with something like Slaughter, This is also good on bosses that don't lose HP, such as Elemental Realm is really, really good. But Fierce Attack is a pretty decent will, and something to keep note of is the 3 times. It's worded kind of interesting. So it sounds like you can normal attack or use a skill. It's not counting a individual skill that hits multiple times as multiple hits, but it does count self buffs like the priest buff, the marksman buff, or even the uh, wind chaser buff. It's counting as one of the 3. So you can do something like priest buff, throw the ball, swap, never miss, it's triggered, and then multi arrow. Next, we have Slaughter. When a character causes damage to an enemy lower than 60% HP, deals damage equal to, it has a range, and that's because whenever they get lower HP, you deal more damage. And drastically reduces the movement speed of the target for a short while. This several things here. Also, as you level it, so if you have 2 5s or whatnot, it'll go from 15 seconds down to all the way up to, at plus 12, 8 seconds. So you can trigger this every 8 seconds. And this is this cooldown is not a cooldown to trigger the skill, it's cooldown per player. So each individual player you can slaughter, and in order to slaughter them again, you have to wait 8 seconds. Which, if you have some CC abilities, you can easily make that 8 seconds just happen. Also, the reducing movement speed can also be a huge thing if you have a long range skill like the first skill of Marksman. You can hold and aim it and then get a slow on them from a really nice range. Fighting Will. When a character's normal attack or skill hits an enemy, gain a stack of Fighting Will for 4 seconds. Each stack grants percent damage up to 5 times when it's max, so when you have the 5 stacks, also get Pierce Rate with a cooldown of 1 second. So this it has the cooldown of 1 second, and it also specifically calls out in the generations that require a core to trigger. This will not trigger those cores, so be careful when you're doing your builds. Now, this can be very, very good in sustained battles, such as Guild Boss or any of the elemental realms that don't lose HP. But in general, if you're doing something like Top League or Shrine or any of these bobbing in and out kind of battles, it's not going to be the greatest in my opinion. But if your server or the people you generally play against just run in and fight for fighting's sake and just stay there, then it could be okay, but I wouldn't recommend it in most PvP. Next, we have Mantra. After actively releasing any Flower Fairy skill, gain a stack of Mantra for 6 seconds. Each stack grants character attack and defense. Each stack of Mantra takes effect independently, stacking up to 3 times. The independently part means each fairy skill. So if you activate both at the same time, you will instantly have 2 stacks. And remember, you can swap weapons, that you can do 4, but remember it only stacks up to 3. So you have to 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, keep track of it. And then the only way to keep this up is to cycle your different fairy teams, and each team has to have at least 1 mantra on it. So the best place I see for this is very similar to what we said before, Guild Boss. If you have really strong fairies, it could be a really strong place for it, but you have to make that swap up, because I believe if you want to have the biggest damage, you want to do a mantra team, swap to your main weakness of the boss team to throw at your skills, because if it's weak to wind, you put on your wind fairies, you do, I think it's 20% more damage to the boss during that time, and then you swap to your next mantra team. So, at least from what I see with people with guild boss and things like that, people are mostly just chatting about their day or whatnot in the chat. But if you want to go try hard, doing some mantra jump arounds could be really fun. Next, we have God Bless, or Toughness, as it says here. After the character takes damage 3 times, that can include basic attacks, gain a shield equal to percent of max HP. For 10 seconds, the damage reduction for 4 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. So if you, let's say this is active all the time, then half the time you have at max a 17% max HP shield, and about 20% of the time a plus 36% damage reduction. This is a fine one to bring in specifically top league because of how small the battlefield is. You can bob in and out a little bit to get those activations, but you're realistically only going to get 2 or 3 depending on how tough the match is. If you're kind of squishy and you think you might die to the burst, this could be an interesting one to bring in, but generally I like to go for damage myself. God Bless, not the equipment. When in battle, gain 1 stack of God Bless every 2 seconds, lasting 6 seconds. Each stack grants character plus block percent plus tenacity percent up to 5 times. When max stacks, gain damage reduction. So if you can always be in battle, this is a very good defensive one, and what I prefer generally over rigidity. You have to figure out what kind of meta you're in. Are you in a one-shot meta where everyone's one-shotting each other? Or can you hang out in the battle a little bit? And remember, tenacity is so huge that, and it's percent. So let's say at max, it's each stack gives 5% tenacity, and also protection rate. Stacks up to 5 times, so you can get plus 25% tenacity as well as 20% damage reduction, which is massive in PvP. This is definitely one that you should be watching out for. Nightmare, this is one of my personal favorites. Duration of debuffs inflicted on enemies plus 20%, or plus percent. When causing debuffs, you have a 25% chance to deal an extra damage by a percentage of your attack for 6 seconds. This is really funny when you have a bunch of stuns and such, like an Earth team plus Licorice. Then you can have huge 5-6 second stuns, and this is very powerful if you're a weaker player, to allow you to lock down one of the stronger players on the enemy team. Last one here, Instinct, after releasing the dodge, which is specifically the dodge skill. Regenerate percent of max HP in the following 6 seconds, and that is over time, so you don't get the full thing every second over those 6 seconds. It's over those 6 seconds you gain that full amount, but that healing can be increased by different ways, which we'll talk about later, and gain immunity from knock-up and knock-back. So what I have seen with this is I have seen people, before everyone was using Priest, I have seen Judge using this as a dodge in, like a battle mage kind of style. You dodge in, giving yourself immunity to knock up, knockback, and then blow your load, doing a ton of AoE stuff. But nowadays, this isn't really seeing much of anything. Even after the changes to canon, their biggest issue of Netherfire is being changed to not need this either, so it generally doesn't get used. Next, we have the generations. Break free. Next, we have the generations. Break free. After triggering a core skill, gain crit rate and crit damage for 5 seconds. with a 15-second cooldown, so 33% uptime, and it can scale up to 15% crit rate and 54.2% crit damage, which is massive. This is one of my favorites. It specifically can't be used with Fighting Will or God Bless, but that generally doesn't matter. The idea with this is that you primarily use it with Slaughter, and then once you get them under 60, you hit them, trigger Slaughter, trigger Break Free, go ham. Next, we have Super Strength. After triggering a core skill, increase attack equal to a % of max HP. This for 5 seconds with a cooldown of 25 seconds is a really long cooldown, but the spike of damage can be very, very huge, especially for gladiator players that stack a lot of HP and convert it into attack just from their passive. You also get a extra conversion of that with Super Strength. Then we have Fighting Will Strike. When Fighting Will stacks to the max, character additionally gains cooldown reduction up to 21.6%. This is most notable in Elemental Realm, Path of Fire, or Guild Boss when you're using Fighting Will, because these are sustained damage battles. And with things like Priest and Marksman, for example, you can do some things you shouldn't be able to. In Path of Fire, do some punch-ups you really shouldn't be able to. Then we have God Bless Heal. This one is worded kind of weird. When God Bless stacks to the max, gain healing bonus. Meanwhile, the lifesteal effects that other players generate through you minus 10%. So the through you part is weird. It's supposed to be through them is kind of how the wording is. So you get a % extra healing up to about 30%, 29.7, and this can be healing from all ways: lifesteal yourself, or the other 3 healing skills you have. Uppercut from Gladiator. You have the passives from both the Gladiator type skills. You have the Priest skill, and actually fourth, you have the Camouflage for Wind Chaser. And then healing bonus, lifesteal that people get minus 60%, which is what Gladiators get from their class advancement. So if your job is to take out the tank, you can slap on some God Bless heals and then chew on them and make sure that they can't lifesteal back any of the damage. They can still active heal with Priest heal and uppercut and the passive heal of their 2 class abilities, but they will not have the they will lose 60% of the lifesteal effect on their HP steal rate. Now we got Smart Shift. When regenerating HP through non-lifesteal ways, so the other ones I mentioned, additionally grants protection rate and defense in the following several seconds. It used to be like a third of a second. Now it goes 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. So way better now. This is a very strong rigidity combo. So if you have that same issue I mentioned with rigidity, where it's a one-shot meta and people are one-shotting each other, Smart Shift rigidity would be the way to go. Next we got Plunder. % of damage dealt by flower fairies will be converted into HP. Obviously you can't use it in things like Top League where you can't use fairy summons, but this will help you in things like Path of Fire to take down stages you shouldn't be able to. I've also seen people use this to go against some of the Colosseum bosses that they shouldn't be able to survive. Next we have Fast Speed. plus movement speed after dodge for 3 seconds goes up to 35%. So something you can do in Crystal Battlefield, what is it? Shrine Peak or Guild War is you can do this fast speed and then use a dodge, use a wind chaser camouflage, and then you're zooming. You are just going. And this will allow you to mess with people a lot because wind chaser has knockups, suppress, things like this, and then you can use a second class that will also CC the opponent and just be a nuisance. Last but not least, we have Wind Vigor, Vigor Wind, minus dodge cooldown up to 40%. I generally stay away from this. You can combo it with what we talked about before with fast speed, but the dodge has a 5-second cooldown, and minus 40% still puts you at roughly 3 seconds. So while that is more often, the biggest issue here is you do get invincibility frames when you dodge, and also obviously, like I just said, you can combo this with fast speed to have that movement speed bonus happening more often. But if you combo that, then you're down to 2 of each if you want to get the most out of it, which is 15% movement speed and 20% cooldown, which takes you down to 4 seconds. And what you would like to use the most with your dodges is use them as invincibility frames, but that doesn't always work because of server lag, whatnot. But once the PC port happens and you can get more split-second timing with your dodges, things like that, it could be very powerful. And that's it, guys. Quick start guide and telling you what they do, what they combo with, and how to look at them when you make your builds. I'm not giving you a flat out, this is the build, this is what you do. I want you guys to make them up, and this is actually the most fun part of the build, is figuring out what you're using in different game modes, mix and matching, and seeing what the problem is and how to solve it in your wills and cores. Till next time.